All right, guys, welcome to the Home Service Expert. Today, I got a great friend of mine, Ismael Valdez, who just really smart guy. I would never bet against him. In fact, he called me up and he said, "Hey, I'm doing this thermostat stuff." And he asked, we're like with a group of a lot of guys: Chad Peterman, Aaron Gaynor, Cristiano, Hoffman. The list goes on and on. And I was like, "Dude, I'm in." And then he said, "All right, wire me the money." And it showed up the next day. And because I'll never bet against you. I mean, you're a lion.
Thank you, man.
And
Thank you.
Ismael's the founder and CEO of Next Gen Air Conditioning. He's traded that, but he's still got a lot of money in it. He's building an empire called Nuve. It's not only a thermostat, but he's doing a lot of stuff going forward with it. He's forward developing the crap out of it. It's an amazing thing he's building, and he's helping out a lot of home service companies. So why don't we just start with I know your story, but it's an up-and-coming story of how you started the business. You used to work in well, first of all, you came into this country with nothing.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that, and then just starting as sitting in a warehouse selling parts.
Dude, I think we should start right there, Tommy. Look, I was born in Mexico. My family's from Michoacan, Mexico. We were born over there, raised over there. I got here when I was 6 years old. We got smuggled in here at a very young age. My dad was, a really hard worker, just like most of our parents are. And my journey started at Howard Industry, man. My journey started at Howard Industry. I was there for 7 years, which people that don't know what Howard Industry is, it's like a Ferguson's, AC Pro. It's a supply house for AC contractors where, most of these mom and pop shops would go in there and pick up their material, their equipment, and then they would go out there and install it and, and make a profit out of it, hopefully. So I was there for 7 years. 7 years, Tommy. I built a ton of relationships there. I think that's what gave me a kickstart into the industry and kind of what got me to accelerate these growths on these companies. My first project was Home Comfort USA. I know many people think that Next Gen was my first project. My first project was Home Comfort USA. We had 162 employees. We did a little bit over $21 million in revenue in 4 years. And that took me 4 years to do. Out of the 161 employees, I think I recruited 150 of them for that operation. Couple years after that, after we were already at 21 mil, Ken, which was the old CEO, not Ken Goodrich, Ken Starr was the CEO. We parted ways. Just he had some financial issues, and then I started Next Gen, man. You guys know my Next Gen story. We had a successful exit in 2022, May 5th of 2022. Tommy, May 5th of 2022, and
it's crazy. It's been 3 years.
And I don't know if you remember, but on the group message that we have, I sent out. I got my license in 2016 February. So my journey at Next Gen was 6 years and 4 months when from the day we started to when we sold it for a ton of money. So
yeah, you're definitely a student, and I don't think people understand that. I mean, who have been your best mentors?
Dude, I don't think I have mentors, bro. I think I have more of competitive brothers.
Yeah, no, it's a better explanation. I mean,
like most people have mentors. Like a lot of people have mentors. I don't think I've ever had a mentor that like has sat down with me and has poured in time with me. And
Tom Howard.
Tom Howard was a competitive mentor too. Competitive partner on it. He came in obviously in 2019 when things were going south, and obviously he helped me a ton. But I think what's driven me to the heights that I'm in and all the projects that I'm involved with and all the companies that we're trying to grow is I am super competitive to a level where like I look for brothers and I look for friends and I look for companions that are going to be just as competitive. And I think that's why me and you get along so much, because you are one freaking people. Look, let me tell you something. There's one thing people don't know about Tommy, because he hides it super good, because obviously he's super polished and he's not always been that way. But Tommy is hands down one of the most competitive people in the freaking industry. There is no doubt about it. He's not a loudmouth like I am. I promise you he's not. But dude, you drive me nuts, man. Like, I'm trying to keep up with your energy. I'm trying to keep up with, obviously, like, the business side of it.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. That's what we do. We were on a bus right after Pantheon. I feel like this was 5 years ago.
Yep.
And we were going back and forth, you ever going to sell? And you're like, why wouldn't you sell? And I'm like, I'm not selling. And then all of a sudden, COVID happened.
Yep.
And, dude, the multiple went bam, 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 bam. And Tom Howard came out, and he's like, dude, I don't know if this is going to stay like this. He's like, this doesn't make sense. Guys are getting 15, 17, 19, 20. And at the time, look, Keegan was one of the best home service companies. I went out to Best Home Services. I think he got 8 or 9.
Yep.
So I'm thinking in my mind at the time when I was talking to you, maybe we get 10, 12. Why? And then it just goes boom, boom, boom. And like hogs get slaughtered, pigs get fat or something like that.
Yep.
So it was like, and it was the best decision I ever made. But you were like, first you're like, I'm never going to sell. Then you're like, I want to do a deal. Me and you went back and forth. And we both, I mean, mine was in 2022 as well.
Yep.
And
I remember.
And you know, I'm always in the right place at the right time, and that's probably because I put myself in the right rooms. But you know, you came in one day, and I was like, dude, you were like, it looked like a muscle shirt, but it was just that normal shirt. And you're like, yeah, dude, get your fat ass in shape. And I was like, because I am competitive.
Yeah, you are, bro.
And I go,
and people don't know that about
damn,
you.
son. I was like, all right, dude. I went all in, and I just started working out every freaking day.
Good job.
And I feel so much better. And you're like, dude, you're better than this. You could do this. And really, it sparked a lot for a lot of people. And I just know, like, man, he's busy as hell. He's running around with 4 daughters.
Yep.
And he's still doing it.
Yep.
So
There's no
you're
excuses.
a great dad. And
Appreciate it.
you make the time. And, you know, you were there every day looking at every Yelp review in meetings all the time. Same thing you're doing at Nuve.
Yeah, man.
If I had to give you 3 things, it's competition, competitive, marketing, and recruiting.
Yep.
And I'd also add one thing is ripping off and duplicating. Like, you are really good at just, you pay attention and you're like, I like that, and you just own it.
That's the one thing that business owners need to do a little bit more, Tommy, is that the smaller mom and pop shops, there is so many freaking things that are accessible to them now, between social media, between ChatGPT and Gronk and all these AI platforms that can literally spit out a payment plan for you now. There is so many things that these guys could be doing. And look, like you said, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm not, by any means, I'm not smarter than any of those contractors out there. Dude, if I hear something, if I see something, when I was doing shop tours like you, right? Me and you are probably the kings of shop tours.
Yeah.
I've gone to every
I've
shop.
been to your early days.
Yep.
You showed up in your little
hoverboard.
The hoverboard, and then I got one because I was like, dude, I got a bigger one.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with it. Then I'm like, I got to get my steps, man.
Yep.
I'll go everywhere on that thing.
Yep. So, dude, that's the one thing I learned when I was doing these shop tours. I would come to your facility. I would come to Leland. I went to all these facilities, and all I would do, and this is a huge pointer for you guys. Okay, when you guys go to these shop tour facilities, stop taking a million notes and trying to like implement everything today, or get all excited and go back to the shop and be like, okay, where do I start? Everybody in the industry every shop does one thing really, really, really good. Right? Like the one thing I could tell you about Tommy's facility, they're training from the time they get somebody from the streets to the time they put a level 4 technician or whatever levels you got, Tommy. They could grab somebody from the streets making $20 an hour. Their first year at A1, they're going to make $100,000, $80,000 to $100,000 all day long. All they have to do is have the hard work ethic. Yes or no? Okay. No, after that, they put them on this journey to getting them to making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. That to me is the one key strength that you have. Obviously, the second strength that I see in your operations, your call center. But back to the thing about the contractors, guys. When you guys are going out there and doing your shop tours, and you guys are reaching out to me, wondering who you should visit. Go to each facility and just enjoy the freaking moment, man. Enjoy the moment that you're spending with Tommy. Enjoy the moment that you're spending with, if you get to go to Aaron Gainers and Chad Petermans and all these guys. Enjoy the moment and take one thing. Yeah,
well, the implementation most people fail at, and I'll tell you this. I've started bringing my team with me. We went to Morris Jenkins. We went to Any Hour. I told these guys, I said, by the way, before we go in there, you guys are going to get super excited. I said, you realize we're more profitable
than all these guys.
Like literally at the bottom line. And I said, so let's not change everything. Let's decide. One of the things we were really impressed by Morris Jenkins is 7 days a week till midnight. And the way they got their parts delivered. One of the things that we were super impressed by Any Hour is their uniforms and the way they work together. And we took certain things, but they had so much stuff. And I go, guys, do you know what we do really great? Like, let's just be clear on what we do very great. And then a lot of small companies come in and then they look at this. And it's a good dream to have, but they got to know how to walk before they run and crawl before they walk.
100%.
And so, you know, my biggest thing I've done is I probably look at 10 softwares a month, and we are the early adopters of the guys, the founders I know that actually I could get behind. Just like you, Nuve wasn't going to be a great product without a guy running with it and pushing it and like sitting through the pain of the weekends and the nights and showing up every day and dealing with the clients. And now you got this whole Nuve best practices where if you're a part of the network, you're going to coach them. You're going to get the top entrepreneurs in the home service industry to coach. I just was on a coaching or whatever you call it.
That mentoring call, by the way, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Tommy, but that mentoring call that you did for our Nuve Networks people, blown away. Everybody from that call was DMing and texting and emailing Elva. Hey, can I get Tommy's information? Hey, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I appreciate that.
No, it was great. I enjoyed doing that stuff just because Ken Haynes, Ken Goodrich, Leland, Keegan, I could go on and on. They open their doors for me. You open your doors. Yep. Look, Peterman opened his doors. There's not a company around that if I didn't ask, this is before I was anybody. Yep. This is when I first got on Service Titan. Tom Howard with his backpack. We're both there. Daria Slivers became a good friend. And I'm like, how many people open their doors for me? And so people are like, well, how do you make money doing this? I'm like, dude, this is called paying it forward. People did it for me. I would knock, they would answer.
Yep.
And if anybody knocks, I try to help out everybody. It's just what I've learned is it's the 80-20. 20% of them you want to work with because they're actually doing the work. They're putting their head down. They actually take you seriously. And, you know, we started Home Service Freedom because I started Vertical Track. And all of a sudden, it's filled with plumbers and HVAC and roofers. And I'm like, this is a garage door only. So we started HSF. And, all we teach people how to do is, like, book the phone calls, protect your Yelp, do these simple things, get a good brand. And most of them, once they learn, they start printing money.
Yep.
They don't even know how to budget. You know, you and I see our weak points, HR, not the hiring part, but financing. Yep. You know, like, dude, I'd never read pivot tables, and I wasn't good at reading the financials and, like, making sure I was such a visionary. I'm like, I don't care if we make profit. Grow, grow, grow. And then I learned profit's important.
Exactly. It is.
And that's later in life that, like, I've learned because I'm like, growth. We could get profit later, and it worked out for us. But usually it doesn't. Usually people go.
So I got a question for you on that. Should people scale their business, the top line as fast as they could, and then work on the bottom line, or should you be profitably year over year as a small person, as a small contractor, and grow, 10, 20, 30%, whatever the status quo?
I got a rule of thumb, and it depends on how much money you have in the bank. But my rule of thumb is if you're not growing 10%, focus on. If you're not profitable at 10%.
Okay.
Now listen, A1's doing 25%. But if you're in a growth mode, when you work out, this is my best analogy. Are you working out to get lean? Or are you working out to gain muscle? When you're making out, you want revenue when you're getting muscle.
Of course.
And the best people that work out, they're in the off season, they're putting on muscle.
Amen.
So I think the deal should be you need revenue, but you need profit. Profit is what saves you when you get sued or saves you a car accident or saves you from a slow season.
Down. Yes.
And everybody, they spend everything they got, and then the CPA calls and says you owe $1 million. You're like, how's that possible? I don't have any money. And like, this is just normal taxes. We use GAAP accounting. You owe money. And I used to get these phone calls and be like, man. And then I learned these private equity guys figured out a way to do both.
Yep.
They could get revenue and profit.
Yep.
But I would say, look, when you're smaller, you're learning. Revenue is important. I mean, you want growth, but profit's what pay the bills, man.
Yeah,
I mean, profit, and a lot of people aren't looking at the numbers when they're not profitable.
I agree.
You start cutting certain things, the guys that are not getting reviews, that are getting warranty calls, that aren't showing up for training. A lot of people that I know, they're so afraid to top grade.
And that's probably one of your strong points too. You're able to, keep the good people and let go of the bad people that create.
Yeah, they don't leave. They won't leave because they've got equity in the business and they see there's something in the outcome for them, and that's something I learned too.
You bring up private equity, Tommy. Another question I've got, and I know a lot of our listeners, and I know you're invested in, and I'm invested in it too. Is private equity good or bad for the industry, Tommy?
This is my best answer: is the money will flow into anything making money. There's a lot of baby boomers out there. They need to make money. There's a lot of pension funds.
Yep.
They go into real estate. They go into dental offices. They go into emergency rooms. They will invest they'll invest in a candy shop. So to say private equity is a fancy way for investors.
Yep.
And to say, but they're very good at what they do. They've created a really good platform where they take 2% of operating and 20% of the net, and they raise capital. And it's like, look, you make more money in private equity than you do in the stock market, even the S&P 500. but it's locked up for 5 years. But the fact is, people are like, private equity's bad, private equity's bad. The investors are always going to get into every industry. They just thought blue-collar guys were stupid.
Yep.
They were like,
I agree.
there's no, like, they figured out we were lucky. And then we made it through 2009-10. We made it through COVID. And then they realized there's really good operators in these industries. And that's why they're here. And everybody hates it because there's good, bad, and the ugly.
Yep.
And I would say this. I know it was good for you. You got a Rolls Royce. I know it was good for
a lot
me.
of us. It was good.
Look, and I know this. I know they're more sophisticated. They taught me about how raising capital. They taught me about you shouldn't have a 6% ARR. Or not ARR, 6% accounts receivable AR. And now it's 0.3%. They looked at my stuff because they're financial wizards, but they can't do what me and you could do.
Of course
they go
they
in
can.
and screw up a lot of companies.
Yes, they do.
Because they don't got the EQ. They don't have relationships with the people. They try to cut their way to the top, but that's not every company.
That's not.
A lot of them let you take the guys out. A lot of them say invest in what you want. Just be healthy.
Of course.
Just don't go too fast to growth because we need to make sure we've got a plan. And we're not big planners. We're like, let's go all in.
And
So they taught me to slow down a little bit.
I seen all these comments online of like, oh, private equity came in my region and they ruined our region, and now they're spiking up PPC, and they're investing in all this marketing and all this, and I'm like sitting there like, guys, you guys should be proud. You guys should be happy that private equity is in your space. You guys should be happy that they're in your region. Why?
Well, what was your exit strategy? You have no way of exiting at all.
Exactly.
And not to mention, when A1 goes into a market, what everybody's kind of realized is, man, everything's easier. Like, they're at the top of the market. They've really trained the customer about a premium company, and so they get branded correctly.
Exactly.
They answer their phones on weekends. They show up, and they're like, we're still cheaper than A1.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden, they double their company when A1 goes in. And so, they
should be excited, man. There's no reason for anybody to talk bad about private equity. Look, like Tommy said, there's good and bad private equities out there, and some of them are sharks. They're just here for money. Some of them actually care about the operators inside the operations and the systems. But listen, stop worrying about him. Stop worrying about him. If there's private equity in your sector, I promise you that's a good thing. Why? Because they're priced out properly, they're marketing properly. So you guys should be using that to make sure that you guys are leading that way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you learn a lot. You could learn a lot, and all of a sudden you become ultra profitable. Here's one thing I've learned: losers focus on winners.
Amen.
And winners focus on winning.
Yes, sir.
And so many losers I know, all they do is get into a room and they complain and then they bitch and then they say the prices and the tariffs. I'm like, you know what I say? Good. I'm like, because this is going to get rid of so much competition.
Yes,
Nobody's going to be able to keep up because they were complaining that they couldn't hire guys. Then now they're complaining they can't get leads. Then they're complaining about now P's here. Then they're complaining. It's the same people that always have an issue. Every time any of that happens, anybody walks into my office and works for me, I'm like, good. They're like, what do you mean good? They're like, did you realize they just doubled our prices? Good, they doubled everybody's prices. Who cares? You know how much harder it's going to be for them than us? We're trained for this. We're trained for battle time.
You build enough value to be able to charge for that. So, look, it's talking about losers. There's a ton of losers in the industry, Tommy.
Well, the deal is, I have this philosophy. Whoever doesn't make it in the real world teaches. You know why we started HSF? Because I'm still in the battlegrounds, man. I'm still in here fighting. I know what's happening. I know what microeconomics are going on. And look, there's a lot of people. There's some funky deals going on. And it's like but they're really good sales guys. They can sell a dream. And there's a lot of them out there in a lot of industries. Trust me, you don't think it's in roofing. You don't think it's in pest control.
Everywhere. They're everywhere.
They exist in every industry. It's just, certain people, they fall in love with the dream. They go on the private plane, whatever this looks like, and they sign their life away. And unlike you, I'm not a big fan of look, I'm not behind closed doors like you are. You talk to these guys more than I do. I don't know who's been ripped off or not. I don't get into that because I'm too focused, but they come to you in confidence.
They do.
And for me, I'll listen to their story, but I'm not the one that went through their Q of E. I'm not the one. I've been through a lot of owners that tried to sell that were lying about ad backs, that did a lot of shady stuff too. So just as many crooks are out there trying to teach guys to take advantage, there's a lot of owners that lie about their numbers. They make stuff up. I've been through deals where their financials weren't even close to what they were reporting. So I think there's bad actors in everything.
So what would you do? Put yourself as a contractor, right? Everybody wants the $5 to $10 million contractors because they know they're a couple tweaks away to getting them to 20, 25 mil, and that's where you could get a good profitable flip, right? So you're a $5-10 million contractor. What are you doing? And these guys keep approaching you, and obviously, whether you're in a good or bad spot and you're looking for help, what are the top 3 questions that you're asking these gurus in the industry, Tommy, without calling any names or bashing on them? What are the top 3 things that you're asking to be able to make sure, hey, this is the right mentor for me, or this is the right leader for me, or I'm interested in it, right? So,
well, number one is there's a way to prep if you're ever looking to make something, and a lot of people don't do this and they lose out on a lot of value. Number one is getting audited financials. Number 2 is doing your own quality of earnings, that you're prepared. Number 3 is having service tighten. I got to tell you, when somebody's on house call pro or a jobber, that's okay.
Yep.
And I get it, but you're going to get devalued because you don't look like an affluent business person. I mean, you just don't. Everybody gets you, every platform will get you in the home service industry on service tighten. You got to be on the right payroll software. Like, there's certain things you just have to do. So prep first. Secondly is when all these different PE companies approached me, I went and flew out to see who they worked with, what their success story, and I looked at their financials. They opened up the doors to me. Tell me all about your success stories. What's the good, bad, and the ugly? And you better tell me some bad and ugly.
Because if you don't have ugly, what?
They're lying.
Of course.
And then, but the track record, like when I work with a vendor, I want to talk to 10 people you've worked with, and I want to hear from a couple of people that you either stopped work with or they fired you. And that's the fact is, I flew out to so many businesses that worked with Cortec, and they told me they're very hands-on. They're going to tell you no. They're gonna expect you to be super humble. And I said, fine, I could be all that. And they taught me a lot. And they were really worried. They said, dude, I'll be honest with you. They told me this. They said 10 companies have called us and asked me what it was like to work with Tommy Mello. Everybody wanted to see if they could tame the beast. And they're like, but you just sit there, you listen, you ask great questions, and you do exactly. And they don't tell me what to do. They just say, have you ever thought about it this way? Or why is this AR? Or what can we do about this? Or have you ever thought about renegotiating with this guy because your cost of goods is out of control? And that's what they do. That's what a great partner does. But they said, we didn't buy A1, we bought you. And they did buy Luke. They bought, trust me, they brought Travis Rackley. They bought our team.
Yep.
But the deal is if I stop showing up, if I start taking vacations and just disappear, these guys are loyal to me too. So the founder leaves.
We know what that we know.
It's not a good situation.
We know what that leads into, right?
Anything that's complex that I can't go explain to my significant other, that's like, well, I get an earn out here, they're going to add this back, they're going to do this. That's always makes me fishy. Like, first of all, it should be a very, very easy deal.
Earn outs, yeah.
And it should be I getting a lot of cash up front.
Yep.
And it should be what's my upside, or what upside have you done this with before? Like, where have you done this before? Is this your first rodeo? And a lot of people are taking other people's credit. Whether you worked for Ken Goodrich or whether you worked, a lot of people work for a lot of people. And there's so many guys I know that have worked for Ken. And Ken's a beast.
Dude, Ken is probably one of the most respectable operators out there. And there's a lot of scumbags out there talking bad or trying to take credit for what he did. It's no different from one of your guys saying, oh, I built A1, or one of my guys saying, oh, because of me, next gen happened. And I've heard stories like that about me. I've heard stories like that about you, about Ken Goodrich. Look, at the end of the day, guys, the CEO, the operator, the guy with the vision is the most important part of the piece, whether people want to see it or not. So I hate these scumbags out there that are always like, well, I built Ghetto and I built next gen and I built this. It's like, no, we didn't. Look, I don't even say that. I've never heard you say, because of me, A1 said it happened.
No,
I've never heard.
You're only as strong as your team, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. In fact, I needed to step back and say, look, I am fireable now that I work for private equity. I mean, those are the facts. And I just say, guys, I'm the driver for sure. But my biggest goal, there's a great book by, what's it called? Not Built to Sell. That's John Warlow. There's a great book called Built to Last by Jim Collins. And this idea should be, if I were to leave the company, it would do better because I put all the right people in place. Now, if somebody comes in and starts firing everybody and gets rid of all my installers and does all the crazy stuff, it cuts to the marketing, that's not good. But what I'd ask them to do, if you're going to let me go, can you give me 6 months as a consultant to make sure we're leaving this in great hands? Because my face is on the side of the truck.
Amen.
I want this thing to live on because there's a lot of families. If there's 900 employees that are taking care of 3 people, there's 3,600 people we're taking care of. So can you please, if I did something bad, God forbid, I got in a really bad car accident and something bad happened.
And you can't operate A1.
We need you to be out because it's too bad publicity. I would ask, could I work from a distance just to make sure that these families are taken care of?
I got a good question for you. And Aaron Gaynor put this on our group chat. that, and which is with what you're saying. Something bad happens to you, God forbid nothing happens to Tommy. Obviously, we all appreciate what you do in the industry, Tommy. But God forbid something happens to you, and the new CEO's walking in. What do you tell that CEO about your company? About, hey, this is what you need to focus on. What's that 5-10 minute conversation?
I mean, it's a very quick conversation of, look, there's a lot of people that I entrust in this business. The most one is Luke and my CFO, Adrian. And I go, they understand how I run stuff, but what's going to happen is you're going to change the culture to your culture because now you're running the show.
Yep.
And all I'd ask is, listen, these guys know how to run without me. So give them a lot of latitude. Let them do what they do best. Where I do my best, where you're going to have to fill in for, is there's certain vendors that I've got 10-year plus relationships, and I give them everything to make the decisions, but I hold them accountable. And I'd say, listen, here's what you need to do. A great leader, you need to rally the troops. You need to get them excited. You need to see what's in it for them. You need to make sure their families are taken care of. You need to make sure if they want weekends, they're going on the trips they want to, they're buying their first house. Because if you start to extract money from this company, they will be gone in a New York second. In fact, and I don't say this with any pride, there's at least 40 people a month that reach out to me to say, if you were ever to step down, if you decided to be a garbage man, we're going with you to do garbage. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want you to be loyal to me necessarily. I want you to be loyal to this company.
Unfortunately, Tommy, that is one responsibility that carries with you for being a great leader. Same thing with me. I stepped down as CEO of NextGen a couple years ago, and there was people that told me the same thing. Hey, Ishmael, if you ever leave or if you ever step down or whatever the case is, like, I don't think I could be here. And, unfortunately, I had to step down. I had to, I had other visions in mind, like my Project Nuva that I couldn't.
Yeah, well, when I went to your shop, first of all, you were feeding everybody. You had a truck there every day. I was there. People were winning Raptors. You go give out. You had every guy walking in. You were throwing cash to. Somebody had a hard time. You were figuring out a way to make it work. And one of the things that I think that, look, this is not because you're Spanish speaking, but I will say everybody gets sued in California. What they figured out was Ishmael's came from where we came from. Yeah. He takes care of us. And if one guy screws it up for us and they sue because of a mistake, a clerical error on a payroll, then all of us go down. And I think they kind of self-governed each other.
Yep.
And that's why you didn't. I'm sure you got sued in California a couple of times, but nothing that took down the ship.
Nothing, man, nothing. And I'm super proud of that because that culture that I built there was people saw me serving them every day, day in, day out. I would show up to the shop at 5, 6 a.m. Every day for 6.5 years, 7 years. I would show up, and the reason why we didn't get any lawsuits, the reason why we weren't in any legal troubles, the reason why is because people would see me there, and 5, 6 in the morning, I'm packing up the installer's truck, I'm grabbing, the Yetis,
you're
filling them with ice.
You're taking care of them.
Of course.
And you paid more. And also, like, you understood, like, look, we're going to get this. But I feel like they didn't feel like you were just chasing the dollar. Although, listen, everybody wants to make money for their families. And you want to set up your daughters.
Of course.
But there's an idea of, like, dude, if I sat on the top of the mountain alone with a Magnum bottle of champagne – like that was the end of my career. If
it's
that would
pretty
happen.
Lonely, man. It's pretty. Did you ever think that this was going to happen to us, Tommy? Me and you are probably, and I mean this in the most humble, respectful way. Me and you are probably some of the most influential voices in the industry. Did you ever think, like, man, one day this is going to happen?
When I was a kid, I used to listen to my mom and dad argue about bills, and I just decided I need to remove money from this. Will never happen to my family. They'll never get a divorce. My dad cheated on my mom. He drank a lot, but he was the best dad ever. And I golfed with my dad 2 days ago, and I said, man, I'm glad I didn't. My dad's a mechanic. He ran transmission shops. He did a great job. He took care of me. But I'm like, I found a niche. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm an overnight success of 2 decades. But I didn't know what multiples or arbitrage was. I didn't understand how to build a business. I was pre-dental. I went to school. I took anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, organic, like you name it. I took advanced calculus. I mean, can you imagine me as an orthodontist? I would be like, dude, so like, I don't know, but I think, I'm pretty spiritual, and I think God has a plan, and I think he hasn't even begun to use me yet for what I'm meant to do. I'm not a dad yet. I was put on this earth to be a father.
For sure you were.
So
I can't wait to see that version of you, by the way.
My best things haven't, God forbid, if I do something bad happen, which, tomorrow's not promised. That's something I learned. I do believe my legacy is going to be my family, but you know, I can't be sure because you know all I could do is marry Bree and start having babies. But you know, I want them to grow up in a great. The hard part is when you have this much money.
Yep.
And I say this with the most humble. I want my kids. I want them to fight. I want them to go through not exactly what I went through. Definitely not what you had to go through. I mean, but at the same time, I don't want them to be like, dude, yeah, come to this 50,000 square foot house and they're friends and they're driving first class on private. Like, I want to figure out how to instill. Yeah, it's just such a hard thing. And I don't know. How do you manage that?
I'm in that midst right now where my daughters know they have a good life in it. And I can tell they have that little attitude of like, hey, you know, but then I also look, my number one thing with my daughters, and I'll give you this as a humble friend to you, Tommy, is I am a mirror of what I want my daughters to see every day. So if you ever see me around my daughters, bro, I am serving them. I am picking up napkins. I am picking up plates for them. I'm grabbing the thing. I'm grabbing clothes for them. I finally took them out to San Diego to this new resort in San Diego, which had a bunch of water slides and everything. And there was 4 couples in back of us in a cabana, and it was my daughters and myself. They were just chilling. And the guy comes up to me after like 5-6 hours of looking at me, and he said, "Hey man, you haven't sat down for more than 1 minute. You've been grabbing towels, grabbing food, putting sun lotion. Are you gonna sit down and enjoy your vacation?" And I'm like, nah, man. Not when you have 4 daughters. I want them to see how they should be treated every single day for their life, and that's the way I parent my girls.
No, well, that's good. It's going to be hard for anybody to date them because you're going to be a tough critic, and if I have a boy. It's you treat a woman right. That's what my dad
Amen.
taught me. I mean, look, he made mistakes in his life, but you know what?
We all
Everybody
do.
does.
We all do.
And I don't hold him. I don't know what it battles. He was going through a lot of demons. Everybody
There you
has
go.
that. So I just figured, dude, I only cared about money just because I saw it rip my family apart. And then I started seeing fitness and faith and family and future self and the finance kind of. What is the only thing you could really delegate? You can't delegate your fitness. You can't delegate your faith. You can't delegate family.
Nope.
You can't delegate learning.
Nope.
You can't delegate fun.
Nope.
You could delegate finance, believe it or not. You could
Yes,
you
you can.
could get great people on your team.
Yep. And they'll
And you
produce the
build a
financing for you.
machine.
Yep.
And look, I could go out of town. I'm taking my dad on a golf trip next week,
Good for you, man.
and it's with all my cousins. I'll be gone for a week, and then I got to go to Milwaukee for a management meeting. Do you think that I'll log into Service Titan and everything's going to fall apart?
No,
Do you think I could be gone for 3 months and they won't skip a beat?
they won't skip a beat.
Our whole team goes to Mexico for a week. All of my C-suite,
And
my
you guys still
managers,
produce.
my top 40 technicians in the company and installers leave for a week. You know what's funny? Is all the other guys think they're getting the best jobs now, and we hit the same exact numbers. They're like, now that they're gone, we're getting the good jobs, which is a fallacy.
Of course it is.
But it's crazy to me because you would think your top 40 producers, your whole management team,
It's gone for a
we
week.
don't lose a thing.
Of course. And guys, look at what he just said. I don't want you guys to skip what he just said, because this is the type of competition that you guys are against in the garage door industry. This is the type of Tommy is taking 40 of his top technicians to Cabo, his executives, his managers, everybody for a week, paying for everything, housing, food, everything. And they're having a blast. You posted a bunch of videos on your Pinnacle trip
Pinnacle
that you
trip,
do every
yeah.
year. And guys, this is exactly what I'm telling you, and this is exactly what I mean when the way you recruit the top people is doing stuff like Tommy does. He pays the best, he trains the best, he treats them the best. Like I guarantee you, if I talk to one of your technicians that just started a month ago, Tommy, they know exactly the pathway to getting to being a top performer here.
And they all got my cell phone number. And the other thing is that they got a chance to get equity in the business. And the other thing is I teach these guys to be killers and ask for everything.
Amen.
They ask for everything, which means when I teach them that, they're going to ask me for more.
Of course.
So the top guys that make more money than I do of a salary basis and with commissions and whatnot, they literally, you can't teach them to be lions and then they say, what's next for me? Where could I do more? How do I make more money? And I'm like, and I got to always be coming up with ways and new strategies for them to earn more money.
That keeps you on your toes, though. That keeps you on your toes.
It's like they always want more. And guess what? I always want more.
Yes.
And would you rather somebody say, I'm just fine in the corner, but they're not trying?
Yep.
So you teach it. I always say this, look, you can't teach a guy to say, hey, listen, I want you to go hard. I want you to ask for everything. But hey, listen, when you run these home warranty calls, don't ask for anything. Like you got to have specialists, so you got to understand exactly. You can't teach them to be one way to one thing, one way to another. If it's a little old lady, treat her differently. You got to go in and don't treat rich people or poor people or white people or Mexican people. Everybody's the same. Give them all the options and let them choose.
Amen. And that's one thing that you guys got to learn as contractors is that it's okay for them to make more money than you. Look, at the beginning stages of next gen air conditioning, when I was growing it, dude, I was paying myself $2,000 a week just to be able to pay my bills and my rent and my, I think we had a used Mercedes back in the day. And some of the sales guys were pulling in $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 checks a week. And I'm like, God, most contractors though, Tommy, are not okay with that. They're like, well, how could the sales guy be making more? And how could this technician be making more? And I'm like, guys,
they don't understand their enterprise value. They don't understand what they're trying to build.
Exactly.
They don't even understand to not have a plan to sell or at least understand how your business is valued is such a mistake that I was in for so long. And so
we were in for so
long.
Yeah,
I didn't know but literally like the lights started turning on and you hear about this exit, and then you build it in a certain way that it could be sold even if you don't plan on selling. But there's certain guys that are like, I'm never going to sell. And I'm like, because I do believe that literally people lose their DNA when they sell. A lot of people.
Most people do.
But I'm like, do you think I'd be sitting on a golf course? Of course I want to go golfing, but do you think I'm going to disappear into the Bahamas? There is more opportunity. Look, it was Ken Goodrich that called me up. He said, dude, I would do a deal, and here's why. You are one of the smartest guys I know in home service, but you don't know shit about raising capital. You don't understand how to use debt. You don't understand what an LP is. And he's like, dude, when you learn that with what you know of all of this, he goes, you're half of it. Yep. But this other half, if you could just be a sponge, he goes, it's going to be nutty. He goes, do you know how to do a deal? Do you understand ad backs? Do you understand quality of earnings? And at the time, I just barely could scratch the surface. Now I'm like, I'm like, Core Tech, I called them every day, and I was like, so you guys are in the Middle East right now raising debt? They're like, yeah, we just got a pension fund, and here's how it works. And so I would call them. I'd invite them to spend the night at my house. And I'd ask them, all I would do is they'd be like,
ask questions.
They'd go, dude, it's 11 at night. Like, I got to go to bed. And I'm like, one more question.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, they're just like, they got it all. The dumbest people in the world think they know everything.
Amen.
And the billionaires I know are they sit there.
And
they'll talk to
questions.
a guy. They'll talk to a server for 20 minutes and ask them why they work there, what their goals are. Do they have kids?
I've noticed that too.
And they ask the best questions. And they learn. They're always learning.
Yeah.
Every time there's been a real issue with this company, it's been me. And it was so easy to point my fingers. I let that happen. I let the guys not drive safely. I knew they weren't driving safely, but they were top producers, and I let them, God forbid, something bad happened.
You know how many times that happens in every company? It's a top producer. It's bringing in revenue, and you've done it.
I've fired four top producers, but I put up with a lot.
We've put up with a lot. We've had it. And then because we were ignorant to it.
Well, you let it happen, and then the whole tribe gets very disheartened. And then you let that person go, and you're like, man, I should have done that 6 months ago.
Yep.
And there's a fear, though, because there was one point in my career where if I lost this one guy, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the bills. And Adam walks in, and he goes, I'm firing him. And I look at him, and I go, okay. And I was so scared because I'm like, dude, what happens when these marketing bills come in? I got a truck payment. I got this stuff. And I was so worried. And you'd be shocked, dude. He goes, he's so disrespectful to you and me. Yep. He literally rolls his eyes when he comes in. He misses meetings.
And he thinks he knows everything.
And the whole place is watching them do that to you.
Yep.
And I said, you're right. So let's do it. And we didn't skip a beat. And then that's why I was like, fine. Nobody's untouchable. Nobody.
At what point, Tommy, did you go from or do you still remember when you were, struggling to when you were already, thriving? Do you still remember that point where you were, like you said, struggling to pay the bill, struggling to pay payroll? What was the turning point?
I'll tell you one story. Me and Keegan have known each other a long time, and Keegan goes, would you mind if I came down to your shop and just checked it out? And this is, it was 2018, 2019, somewhere in there.
Yep, same.
And I go, yeah. And he's pretty smart guy. Like he's really good at understanding financials.
I met him once, by the way. So yeah.
And he goes, hey, could I just see every market? Can you put it out on this conference table? And can you put out, so my CFO goes there, he grabs the balance sheet and the P&L. And Keegan goes out there with a highlighter. It just starts highlighting. He's doing his thing. And he looks up at me with disgust. And he goes, you need to close these 4 markets today. And I'm telling you, Ishmael, I don't care if it was GC, Jesus Christ. I would have not closed those. And he goes, you're bleeding and you're going to go under. And I go, Keegan, it's just bad management. I could fly out there. I could do this. I could do this. He goes, Tommy, close these today and offer your guys a reload package today. And I'm like, but. He's like, no. And I was like, shh. So I closed down Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, and Tampa the next day. And I started printing money like nothing I've ever seen before.
Amen.
And look, I've had a lot of people do that for me, though. Al Levy came in. I've had a lot of people. Aura didn't let anybody on service stand outside of HVAC Plumbing Electrical. We were the first company. And he goes, why would I let a garage door company? And my father does HVAC. Like, this is what we're focused on. Yep. I said, you bet on me. I promise you, I will have more technicians. And he goes, Tommy, I can't do that. 15 minutes later, he goes, you know what? F it. He goes, I'm going to send you 10 success managers. This was 2017. And we didn't have a price book or anything. We had to come up with it. And we're working with Matt Rule and all these freaking, you know what I mean? You know Matt.
Yep.
And why did that happen? Why did he bet on us? Like, a lot of people, like, it's crazy.
Because of you.
But it's just like, no, obviously I believe in Jesus, and he's opened up a lot of doors.
Of course.
And I feel like literally, I could tell you this, I feel like I'm in the early stages. Like, so many people are like, what are you going to do? How much? Why do you keep going? Like,
what do you mean? You're just getting
people
started.
Say, when's the finish line? How much money's enough? My mom had asked me.
It's not about money.
How much is enough? And I said, Mom, I go, do you think Tiger Woods' mom asked him, when you won 4 majors, 4 majors, you got to be done, right? You hit the Grand Slam. I'm like, this is what I live for. Like, I don't get in a room and talk about sports. I don't get in a room and talk about, like,
do we talk about business?
We talk about business.
How do we help each other?
And
make
in a
more
way,
money?
it's an obsession.
It is.
And I was with a guy yesterday, and he goes, "You know who's the most successful people? The people that get obsessed, where they can't sleep, where they're gonna go all in." And he goes, "There's seasons of life." I don't know if you ever heard of Russell Brunson, but Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, he was sitting right where you are, and he goes, "Tommy, the obsession." But he goes, "When I go home, I'm a different Russell. I walk in, I breathe in my car, and I go, new Russell, I'm Russell Dad." But he goes, look, there were places where I had to be obsessed with different things. And I think a lot of people are trying to be so balanced and trying to get to know the things they suck at. I never want to become a good CFO. I'm not saying I want to become a great marketer and continue to become the best marketer. I want to be great at sales. I want to be a great leader.
You want to be a great father.
Yeah, well, those are the things. I want to be in the best shape of my life. And really what I want to do is when I'm sitting on my deathbed, I never want to have to wonder, I wish I could have gone harder. I wish I could have tried more. I wish I could have, like, I want to say I went all in on everything I did. And if I could do that, then I consider life a big win.
Amen. Amen. Look, I want to get back to the location thing, because that's one thing that we as operators always struggle with, Tommy, is at what point do you go to a different market? Do you open up a micro location? Do you open up a second location? Because most of these guys, look,
I know they're all asking that.
I've mentored 1 million guys, Tommy, on these.
What were you doing in just Southern California alone now? I know you had different locations.
Yep. But we had 6 operational locations with, warehousing and installers, technicians, sales guys in there. And then we had 3 micro locations just to be able to lead generate on them.
So Paul, and we talked about that. I remember when I told you, like, you got to do that. But Paul Kelly is going to do over $300 million in Phoenix.
Yep.
Right? Here's the coolest thing about being where you live. You go to church there. Your kids grow up there. Your best friends live there. You know all your neighbors. If you don't own that market, you think it's going to be easy to go to the next one?
But most contractors think they own the market at $2 million, Tommy. Most contractors actually, I've had contractors say, Ishmael, I already dominate where I'm at. I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I already dominate. I'm like, how much revenue are you doing? $7 million. What? Like, I'm going to open up one in Houston and one. I'm like, there is millions of people in Dallas, Texas.
Gus? What about Gus?
Exactly.
Doing over $100 million.
Exactly. So at what point, my question is, at what point?
You got to own the market. Okay. So look, what's the armpit of California?
24 million
What's
people.
The armpit, though? What's the armpit of California? Fresno.
Yeah, exactly.
And how much does Tom Howard do?
50 mil probably.
50 mil. So the idea is people always blame their market. They always say this. Yes, if let me tell you this. If I was in Sedona,
Yep.
you got Flagstaff, I'd say, look,
Yep.
that's a smaller market. I probably got to hit a major metro if I want to get to like the tens and tens and tens of millions.
Yep.
But here's what I find. When I went to Tucson, I was taking my best guys from Phoenix and sending them to Tucson. And I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I was trying to grow too fast. And this idea of like you need to make a lot of profit. You need to be at 22% profit before you're going to go, and it needs to be millions and millions of dollars of profit.
Of course.
And then you move slowly. Somewhere where you get to with an hour to two drive.
How much do you sustain that 20% plus profit before you go into a different market? Do you just, after
Well,
you
it
hit
depends
20?
on how much money do you got in the bank. So look, at the end of the day, here's the deal. Own your market, get the reviews, get multiple locations. Like you should be at least $20 million before even thinking about that.
That's what I said. I think my rule of thumb is you got to be between $20 to $25 million. You got to have a structured management system inside the operation that's producing profit in order for you to even think about adding a second trade, or adding a second, third location. It's hard, man. It's not easy running multi-location shops.
And then the other thing is like people don't understand the difference between home service and home improvement. Like discretionary versus indiscretionary money. Like if you're window washing or painting or doing water systems versus your pipe breaks, your air conditioner goes out, your garage door is busted. Like when the market really gets bad, and it eventually always does, which it gets great,
they let go.
Those companies, they struggle so bad. And I think people need to realize the reason why we get a premium is because we're demand driven.
Yep.
We're a premium, so we can't have AI answering the phone. Yeah, if you got a landscape company that everybody's calling you weekly to mow your lawn, you could have AI answer that at the dentist office. But trying to do AI when you're busted and your pipe just broke, certain people are like, I'm just going to get AI to answer the phone. I'm like, yeah, good. Tell me how that goes.
So tell me about it. Tell me about it, because look, there's been a ton of talk of when CSRs are going to get out of the operation, right? ServiceTime's working on their own. I know there's a ton of good companies out there that are doing the AI, the customer service.
I love
reps.
ServiceTitan, and I will tell you that I think AI needs the assistance of humans and vice versa for the next 18 months to 2 years. And I think it needs to learn from the humans, and then we're going to learn from the AI, and it's going to be a symbiotic relationship.
Do you start now, though? Do you start if you're a $10 million shop and you got 5 CSRs inside of the operation? Do you start doing?
Well, the AI will listen to the calls and they'll disposition the calls, and they'll start scoring your calls, and they'll start kind of coaching your team.
Yep.
But where AI is right now. If we did a quick phone call and you said, thank you for calling A1 Garage Door Service, and you said, hey, my garage door spring break, how much would it cost? I'd go, oh, very good. What's your address? And it's not there yet.
Yep.
It's just not there.
Yep.
And if you
agree.
start now, people say start nights and weekends, you're still throwing money away. Have an after-hours call center first. It's just not there. NVIDIA is coming out. In a year, it's going to be so much further, so be a little bit patient. Make sure you pick the right companies. I mean, you could look at a guy like Sebastian. That dude is on the road. He's got a great team. Like, he's a go-getter. Like I get behind people that are go-getters, that are like you.
Of course.
Like I would have never, dude, Tom Howard said it was a long shot. He goes, there's one guy on the planet that could work this out. He goes, Ismael Valdez. And dude, nobody in the beginning would have bet. I mean, dude, it was a lot. And I got to tell you, you were like investing in like house cleaning and like sushi bars. And then you're like, I'm going to go all in on this.
I'm out. Yep.
And dude, you've had some nobody knows this, but you came to my house and you were almost in tears.
Dude, I was freaking frustrated.
You've had some things go wrong, which everybody does, and they built you. You're stronger.
I was frustrated.
And that business is going to be worth. I mean, you text me an Ara and buy all the time, and you're so competitive, and you're like, "Who's going to be a billionaire?" Blah, blah, blah. And I love that. But here's the deal. I always say, look, what do I do to help me, like the people around me the most? And for me, money's just this tool that when we go to Idaho, you got a place out there.
Yep.
When we do stuff, like I'm building a pretty big place. Right now, I got 6 guys staying with me. You know what I mean? Like you stay with me. You're more than welcome. You left a car at my house for a month.
Yep.
but like the idea is I'm not doing this to say, look at my house. I'm doing this to say this is a sanctuary of fun and relationships.
So we could build
and we're going to work
empires.
together.
Yep.
I mean, I lived in a 1,000-square-foot apartment for 4 years. Tom Howard used to go sleep on the couch and whiteboard with me till 11 at night, and I'd be back out there at 5 in the morning. And I wasn't embarrassed. I had other houses. It's not that my possessions they're not who I am, but yes, I like nice things. I want to be able to get to a place faster and in comfort. Like, it was selfish of me not to have a driver at a certain point.
Of course.
It gave me 12 hours a
Dude,
week.
I told you about a driver, about a
You
chef.
told me about this stuff. You got into great shape. Like, you doing certain things definitely have pushed me.
Good, man.
I mean,
Good.
You've been a positive influence, and it's a lot. I will say, Yano's the ringy, like Gaynor and I became really close. Like, that group we've got, Hoffman's a genius. Like, there's nobody. I wouldn't say there's anybody in there that I'm not like that. Like, I'm not happy. And I gotta say, I didn't know Hoffman. I didn't know Peterman very well. I knew Gaynor, and just all of a sudden, I know you do other groups too, but all of a sudden you threw that together. And the cool thing about it is we give each other everything.
Hell yeah.
Screenshots of what our revenue is, what our top guys are. If I ever want to talk to somebody's top guy, they'll fly him out here.
Yep. We ask for advice on the group. We hold each other accountable. So that's one of the cool things that we built on.
And these are friends for life, man. And the deal is like, the problem is we're such big builders. We're so like, we're always in the midst of something. And plus there's kids coming, and like you guys got kids. But we are like, I got this grand idea that like, we're going to do some cool stuff. Like you've done some cool investments with some of these guys already.
Yep.
Real quick, I got to run here, brother. But talk to me about Nuve a little bit, because literally like, look, I don't care if anybody uses Nuve. I got behind it because I think it's damn good. And I think it's the leading tech. And I know you're not the guy back there doing the software and like making all the innovations. You got ideas because you understand what it's like to be a business owner that's doing $100 million.
Yep.
So you built Nuve in a way. You got sick of paying all these companies for marketing, and you want to own the customer. So I think there's still a lot of skeptics out there.
Yeah, look, Nuve was a product, a project that was brought to me, 3 years ago, and I've been pouring my heart into it because I saw a huge gap in our industry, Tommy, where customers have the same behavior every time they need an air conditioning, just like the way that they have the same behavior every time they need a garage door, right? They go to the garage door, they press the button, it sounds weird or it doesn't open, and what do? They grab their phone, they go on Google.
So stickers work,
yep,
but they never really worked for HVAC.
Nope.
The thermostat to be locked out, to be able to check the unit before the heat. My business isn't seasonal like yours. It's like the smartest freaking thing in the world. And now you sent a text message the other day, and it was like you're telling them the health of everything,
yes, sir.
The air quality, like the crazy stuff, the innovations you guys are making. And like, I think you're better than Nest. I think you're better for the contractor. I think that this potentially is a multi-billion-dollar company.
It is. And look at some of the innovation that we're working on in there. We brought a Carfax report for the AC units that we're actually going to be monitoring, repairs. We're going to be monitoring investments into maintenances. We're going to be monitoring usage to the hour, to the
It said
minute.
Happy Mother's Day the other day on the thermostat. Like, dude, that's super cool. My dad's got one at his house. And it just looks so good. It's like so much. It's got the little glow. You could change the colors on it. Like, anybody that doesn't at least try one out, I just think it's foolish, like for what it does.
And
the ROI is going to prove itself out to be like 300% of what they were making.
And we just hired our first messaging engineer. We just hired our first AI engineer. Like, we are developing this product faster than what most products are going to get developed to. People are already buying Ecobees, Honeywells, and Googles for $200, $250. Ours is priced around the same price, but it has so many features like the messaging, like starting the unit for the first time. We're able to start units from all over the cities and states from your office. We were never able to do that. We're able to monitor. We're able to see if anything's wrong with the unit before it happens. So imagine you're calling your customer telling them, hey, we're on our way to fix your unit. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Oh, we've noticed that we've been monitoring it, and we know that we need to replace something in it. So we're going to go out there and we're going to make sure that your unit's running efficiently.
Or the air quality sensors filters or whatever. And the age, like, dude, you built something for the contractor, which is so much better. And I just feel like when people really realize what you have, there's not a company around. Because I'll tell you this, you're rough around the edges. You tell people like it is. Some people don't like that.
Yep.
But they don't understand the product, and they don't understand the value of the long term. There's a lot of people that either go all in with you, or they're like, oh, Ishmael. And the same thing with me. Yep. I mean, yesterday somebody made a post about me. They're like, I'm so sick of seeing this guy. There was 80 people that said like good things about me, so he took it down. But I'm like, look, I always try to stay in between because, look, I don't want anybody to try to take down my company because too many employees will get hurt. So I try to really guard myself of what I'm going to say. You're a lot more outgoing. You're like, come on, bring it.
Yep.
You're like, I'll take on any fight. You'll go against everybody. I'm just a little more sensitive just because I want to be very sensitive to the people that I work with.
Dude, I'm more anything that we can do to protect our contractors. You already know how I feel about them, right?
Yeah, you're really doing a good job of that, dude. And what we're gonna do, me and you, we're gonna do like you've already got like a best practices group that you like. If you're part of Nuve, they get coached every single week by the top players in the industry. That's priceless.
Amen.
It is priceless.
Yep.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, Ishmael, how do they do it?
Look, go on nuvehome.com if you want to learn about our product. Our products, over 400 contractors have already joined us in the short 7-month journey. We got over 10,000 units already active, 15,000 units deployed in our first 7 months. We're the fastest growing company out there right now. If you guys go on Nuve Home, you guys could learn about the product. If you guys want to know about the mentoring, nuvehome.com. My social media, Ismael Valdez, CEO on Facebook and Instagram. More than happy to help you guys with anything, man.
Yeah, look, I mean, Ishmael, I think he'll get you a unit if you want one. If you're serious and you're moving it.
All my HVAC contractors, I will ship you a unit brand, send it out to you the same day, and it'll have your logo, have full functionality on it, so you could try it. Call us back when you want to place your first order.
Yeah, dude, I just think he's helped so many people. Last thing, Ish, we talk about a lot of stuff. I'll let you close this out.
Look, man, I'm super. The one thing that I'm still grateful for is having friends like you, Tommy, having friends like Travis, and all these guys that were still
the best,
dude.
Such good people, man. They're the biggest hearts in the world.
Dude, the best part about the group that we have, Tommy, is that nobody's looking for anything from you. Nobody's looking for anything from me or from each other. We're all just looking to help each other win, and that's the best part about the group. So I'll leave it off with you guys should be looking for that same group that motivates you to get up, that holds you accountable for all your goals, and that actually makes you a better person, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. So thank you for having me, Mr.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you flying out, dude. You're a busy guy.
Let's go, baby.